The rain hammered down on the Brooklyn Bridge like God's own judgment, turning the East River into a churning black beast below. Gary Harlan gripped the cold railing, his knuckles white, the wind whipping his threadbare coat like it wanted to tear him apart. Because hell, maybe it should. Fuck it, he whispered to the void, one boot already lifting over the edge, when a voice sliced through the storm. Don't you dare jump, you idiot! I've waited too long to lose you now. Gary froze, his heart slamming against his ribs like a trapped animal. He turned slowly, rain blurring his vision, and there was Nicholas Hale, soaked to the bone in a suit that probably cost more than Gary's entire life savings. His blue eyes fierce and unyielding under the bridge's sodium glow. Nicholas didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, grabbing Gary's arm with a grip that said he wasn't letting go. Not tonight, not ever. What the hell are you doing here? Gary choked out, his voice cracking like the thunder overhead. But Nicholas just pulled him back from the brink, their bodies colliding in a mess of wet fabric and raw desperation. It had all started 6 months earlier, in the kind of place where dreams went to die. A dingy coffee shop in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, where the air smelled of burnt espresso and shattered ambitions. Gary was 28, scraping by as a line cook at a hole-in-the-wall diner. His days a blur of grease burns and minimum wage tips that barely covered the rent on his roach-infested walk-up. He'd grown up in the Rust Belt hollows of upstate New York, where his dad drank himself into an early grave and his mom chain-smoked through the grief, leaving Gary with nothing but a chip on his shoulder and a fierce independence that masked the loneliness gnawing at his core. He was gay, had known it since he was 15, fumbling in the dark with a farmhand neighbor. But in a town that still whispered faggot like a curse, he'd learned to bury it deep, letting it out only in anonymous hookups that left him emptier than before. That rainy Tuesday afternoon, Gary slumped behind the counter at Brew Haven, nursing a black coffee that had gone cold. His shift over, but his shiftless life dragging on. The bell above the door jingled, and in walked Nicholas Hale, 32, heir to a Wall Street dynasty that traced its roots back to robber barons who'd built empires on the backs of men like Gary's ancestors. Nicholas was everything Gary wasn't. Polished, poised, with that effortless charm that came from private schools and trust funds. His blonde hair was artfully tousled, his navy wool coat tailored to hug broad shoulders honed by yacht clubs and personal trainers. He scanned the room with eyes like summer skies, then locked onto Gary, who was wiping down the espresso machine like it had personally offended him. Double shot, black, no foam, Nicholas said, sliding onto a stool with the grace of someone who owned the world. His voice was smooth, East Coast elite, the kind that made Gary's skin prickle. Gary nodded, avoiding those eyes, and got to work, the hiss of the machine drowning out the sudden thump in his chest. When he set the cup down, their fingers brushed. Electric, accidental, and Nicholas smiled, slow and knowing. Rough day? He asked like he actually gave a damn. Gary snorted, leaning on the counter. Every day's rough when you're slinging Joe for chumps who tip in pennies. It was bolder than he meant, but Nicholas laughed. A real laugh, warm and unguarded, cutting through the hipster indie playlist like sunlight. I'm Nicholas, he said, extending a hand that Gary shook before he could think better of it. And you're? Gary. Just Gary. He pulled back, but Nicholas's gaze lingered, stripping away the defenses Gary had built brick by brick. They talked for an hour, Nicholas nursing his coffee, Gary on break, the shop emptying out around them. Nicholas spoke of boardrooms and bourbon, of the pressure to seal a merger that would make his family's fortune bulletproof. Gary countered with stories of factory shutdowns and Friday night fights in dive bars, the kind where you won a black eye and a fleeting sense of belonging. There was something magnetic in the contrast, like oil and water daring each other to mix. When Nicholas finally stood, he scribbled his number on a napkin. Call me, he said, his voice low. I don't bite unless asked. Gary didn't call. Not that night, staring at his phone in the dim light of his apartment. The walls closing in with posters of faded rock bands and takeout menus pinned like desperate lifelines. He wasn't the type for fairy tales. Men like Nicholas didn't slum it with guys like him. But 2 days later, After a shift that ended with a burned hand and a chewed-out ass from the boss, Gary dialed the number, his voice steady even as his pulse raced. "It's Gary. From the coffee shop. You free for a beer?" They met at a dive in Greenpoint, the kind of joint where the stool stuck to your jeans and the jukebox played Springsteen on loop. Nicholas showed up in jeans and a Henley that hugged his chest just right, looking every bit the city boy slumming it for authenticity. They drank IPAs and swapped stories, the laughter coming easier than Gary expected. Nicholas confessed he'd grown up in a Greenwich mansion, summers in the Hamptons, but hated the gilded cage, the endless expectations, the parade of eligible bachelorettes his father paraded like show ponies. "I'm gay," he said flatly over his third beer, testing the waters. "Out to my sister, but Dad?" He'd sooner disown me than admit his golden boy prefers dick. Gary met his gaze, the bar's neon buzzing like a live wire. "Join the club. My old man's been dead 10 years. But if he were alive, he'd probably still try to beat it out of me." It was the most honest he'd been with anyone in years, and Nicholas reached across the scarred table, his thumb brushing Gary's knuckles. A touch that lingered, promising more. That night, they stumbled back to Gary's place, the walk a blur of stolen kisses against brick walls, hands fumbling under coats as the city lights blurred into stars. In the cramped bedroom, with its sagging mattress and window cracked against the November chill, they came together like a storm breaking, fierce, unyielding, Nicholas's mouth hot on Gary's skin, Gary's fingers digging into shoulders that carried the weight of empires. It wasn't just sex. It was a declaration, bodies saying what words couldn't yet. "I see you. I want you. Fuck the world." In the weeks that followed, it became a rhythm, late-night texts pulling Gary from sleep, Nicholas showing up at the diner after closing with takeout from places Gary had only read about in magazines. They'd drive Nicholas's sleek Audi out to Coney Island on off days, walking the empty boardwalk as the Atlantic crashed below, hands intertwined like it was the most natural thing. Nicholas opened up about the betrayal that haunted him. His ex, a fellow exec named Derek, who'd outed him to his father during a bitter breakup, nearly tanking Nicholas's career before it peaked. "He thought it would break me," Nicholas said one night, staring at the waves. "But it just made me hungrier for something real." Gary shared his scars too. The foster homes after his mom OD'd, the string of dead-end jobs that chipped away at his soul. "I don't fit in your world, Nick," he admitted once, as they lay tangled in Nicholas's penthouse sheets, the Manhattan skyline glittering like a taunt outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. "I'm the guy who fixes the pipes while you're buying the building." Nicholas propped on an elbow, his face soft in the city glow. "Then we'll build our own world. Screw the rest." He kissed Gary then, slow and deep, sealing the vow with salt and sweat. But worlds like theirs don't build easy. The first crack came at a Hale family gala, black tie affair in the bowels of the Plaza Hotel, where chandeliers dripped diamonds and waiters in tuxes ferried caviar like it was manna. Nicholas had begged Gary to come as his plus one, swearing it'd be fine. His sister Elena knew, and she'd run interference. Gary borrowed a suit from a coworker, the lapels too wide, the fit all wrong. But he showed up anyway, heart pounding as they stepped into the marble maw. Heads turned, subtle, but Gary felt them like knives. Whispers slithered. "Who's the rough trade?" His hand sweated in Nicholas's, the grip his only anchor as they navigated crystal flutes and air kisses that landed like judgments. Elena, a sharp-eyed lawyer with Nicholas's smile, pulled Gary aside in the powder room, her voice kind but edged. "He's fighting for you, you know. Dad's got the merger riding on a suitable match, some senator's daughter. But Nicky? He's all in." The night unraveled when Harlan Hale, Nicholas's father, a silver fox with a scowl that could curdle cream, cornered them by the grand piano. "Nicholas," he boomed, eyes sliding over Gary like he was lint on a lapel. "Introduce me to your associate." "Dad, this is Gary Harlan," Nicholas said, chin up, arm looping possessively around Gary's waist. "My partner." The room hushed, forks pausing midair. Harlan's laugh was a bark, devoid of mirth. "Partner? Boy, this isn't some startup you can pivot from. We've got legacy here, expectations. His gaze pinned Gary. And you, son? What do you bring to the table besides a last name that sounds like mine but reeks of the wrong side of the tracks? Gary's blood boiled, the old defenses rising like bile. I bring me, Mr. Hale. Take it or leave it. But Nicholas tensed, whispering, not now, as Harlan stormed off, muttering about disappointments. They left early, the limo ride silent, Nicholas's jaw clenched. Back in the penthouse he paced, bourbon in hand. He'll come around. He has to. But Gary saw the fracture. The way Nicholas's eyes darted to his phone, already buzzing with fallout texts from board members. The conflict snowballed. Nicholas's work hours stretched, mergers demanding souls, while Gary's shifts doubled to cover a car repair that ate his paycheck. Arguments flared over small things. Nicholas forgetting Gary's birthday amid a Tokyo trip. Gary snapping about your fancy friends who look at me like I'm the help. But the makeups were fire. Nights where apologies dissolved into urgency. Bodies mapping forgiveness in the dark. Then came the betrayal, sharp as a stiletto. Derek, Nicholas's ex, resurfaced at a networking event in Soho, all smarm and seduction, whispering doubts into Nicholas's ear over Scotch neat. He's using you, Nicky, for the thrill, the access. Come back to your league. This slumber phase will tank your stock. Nicholas laughed it off that night, but the seed took root. Days later, Gary found the napkin, that first coffee shop scribble, tucked in Nicholas's wallet like a relic, but beside it, a photo of them from the gala, circled with Derek's scrawl. Proof he's playing you. Wake up. Gary confronted him in the penthouse kitchen at dawn. The city stirring below like a beast. Is this what you think of me? Some phase. His voice broke, fists balled. Nicholas paled, Derek's meddling spilling out in a rush. It's lies, Gary, I swear. You're everything. But the damage festered, trust eroding like rust on rebar. The climax hit on a frigid February night, the kind where the wind off the Hudson bites like regret. Nicholas had been dodging calls, buried in damage control after Harlan threatened to cut him off unless he straightened up. Gary, meanwhile, got evicted. Rent hiked beyond his grasp, boxes piled in the hall like tombstones. He called Nicholas voicemail after voicemail, but silence answered. Desperate, penniless, Gary ended up on that Brooklyn bridge, the river calling sweeter than another night on a park bench. That's when Nicholas found him. Racing from a board meeting, coat flapping like wings, heart in his throat. Gary! The shout cut the gale, and as Gary teetered, Nicholas bridged the gap, pulling him into the rain-lashed safety of his arms. They sank to their knees on the slick walkway, sobs mingling with the downpour, Nicholas's suit ruined, Gary's coat a sodden shroud. I can't lose you, Nicholas gasped, forehead to Gary's. Rain tracing paths like tears unshed. Not to my father's bullshit, not to Derek's poison. Marry me. Fuck the money. Fuck the merger. Just us. Gary pulled back, eyes searching those blue depths, the city a blurred witness. Betrayal's sting lingered, but beneath it pulsed the truth they'd forged in stolen moments. Love, raw and relentless. You mean that? He whispered, voice hoarse. With every goddamn beat. Nicholas kissed him then, fierce against the storm, sealing it not with rings or vows, but with the salt of survival. They didn't run, not yet. Harlan disowned Nicholas the next day, the merger crumbling like ash, Derek's smug texts going unread. But Elena stepped in, her law firm connections spinning a safety net. A modest brownstone in Park Slope, funded by her trust, no strings. Gary found work at a bistro uptown. Nicholas pivoted to consulting for nonprofits, trading boardrooms for boardwalks. Months blurred into a year, their life a tapestry of quiet victories. Lazy Sundays with coffee on the stoop, watching kids chase pigeons. Nights where Gary cooked pasta from scratch, Nicholas chopping onions with tears that weren't from the blade. The wealth gap. It faded, not because fortunes flipped, but because love leveled the field. Gary teaching Nicholas to fix a leaky faucet with duct tape and grit. Nicholas showing Gary the stars from a rooftop, unfiltered by skyscrapers. One crisp autumn eve, As leaves turned the streets to fire, they stood on that same bridge. Not in despair, but hand in hand, the river now a ribbon of possibility. "We made it," Gary murmured, his head on Nicholas's shoulder. Nicholas squeezed his fingers, the ring on Gary's. A simple band from a Brooklyn jeweler, cool against his skin. "Yeah, and we'll keep making it. Together." In a world that peddled divisions, of class, of closets, of cash. Their journey whispered a truth louder than thunder. Love doesn't conquer all, but it conquers enough. It bridges the gaps, mends the betrayals, and in the end, proves that two men, worlds apart, can build a home where poverty and wealth kneel equal, at the feet of the heart. The afterglow of that bridge night lingered like the scent of rain on concrete, but reality crept back in with the subtlety of a hangover. Nicholas woke the next morning in Gary's old apartment. Now theirs by default, since the eviction notice had turned it into a squatter's paradise. Sunlight slanted through the grimy blinds, painting stripes on the rumpled sheets where Gary snored softly, one arm slung possessively over Nicholas's waist. For a moment, Nicholas just lay there, tracing the freckles on Gary's shoulder, marveling at how this man, this beautiful, broken force of nature, had upended his carefully curated life. But the phone buzzed, shattering the peace. Harlan's number again. Nicholas silenced it, but not before the voicemail pinged. "Son, this tantrum ends now. Meet me at the club. We talk merger or you talk to the streets." Nicholas deleted it, throat tight. He'd always been the good son, the one who nodded through lectures on legacy, who swallowed his truths to keep the peace. Now, peace felt like chains. Gary stirred, eyes cracking open, hazel and hazy with sleep. "Your old man," he mumbled, voice gravelly. Nicholas nodded, forcing a smile. "Nothing a walk won't fix. Bagels?" They hit the streets, Brooklyn awakening in a symphony of horns and halal cart sizzles. At the corner deli, Gary loaded a tray with everything, lox, capers, the works, while Nicholas paid, waving off Gary's protest. "My treat," he said, but the words hung heavy, a reminder of the chasm they'd leaped. Over breakfast on a milk crate outside, Gary chewed thoughtfully. "You gonna see him?" Nicholas picked at his bagel, the schmear untouched. "What if I do? He wins." "Nah." Gary wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, all unpolished grace. You listen, but you set the terms. For us." It was that simple faith in Gary that Nicholas clung to as he dressed for the meeting, borrowing Gary's leather jacket over his button-down. A fuck you to the club's dress code. The Hale Family Club was the Union League, a mahogany tomb of old money on Park Avenue, where portraits of dead white men glowered from the walls. Harlan waited in a corner booth, scotch sweating on the table, his face a mask of paternal thunder. "Nicholas." No warmth, just the word like a summons. "Sit. Drink." Nicholas slid in, jacket zipper rasping. "No thanks. Talk." Harlan leaned forward, eyes like chipped ice. "This dalliance. It's cost us the senator's backing. Girl's father pulled out when word leaked. You're throwing away everything I've built. Our legacy." Nicholas wanted to scream, but he held steady. "It's not a dalliance, Dad. Gary's my future. And if the merger tanks because of that, good riddance. I'd rather build something honest than inherit your ghosts." Harlan's laugh was bitter, veins bulging at his temples. "Honest? From a Harlan who's half my blood but none of my spine? Boy, love's a luxury for fools. You'll learn when the checks bounce." Nicholas stood, the booth creaking. "Then let me learn. But don't call again unless it's to meet him properly." He walked out, the doorman's nod feeling like victory. Back home, Gary was packing. Boxes labeled kitchen shit and Nick's fancy towels, humming an off-key Dylan tune. "How'd it go?" Nicholas pulled him close, inhaling the scent of soap and sweat, like swallowing glass. "But I'm still standing." They made love that afternoon, slow and deliberate, windows open to the fire escape's iron lace. Gary's hands mapped Nicholas's body like territory claimed, whispers of mine against collarbones. It was reclamation, A balm for the wounds Harlan's words had reopened. Elena called that evening, her voice a lifeline. Dad's raging, but I talked him down. From disinheritance to cooling off. I've got a sublet in the slope, two-bed, garden view. Move in next week. Nicholas agreed, gratitude thick in his throat. Elena had always been the bridge, the one who'd held his hand at 12 when he confessed his first crush on the stable boy. "You're brave, little brother," she said softly. "Braver than me." The move was chaos. Gary's beat-up truck loaded with mismatched furniture. Nicholas's Audi stuffed with suits he'd never wear again. Neighbors waved from stoops, the block's rhythm welcoming. Old Italian ladies pressing fig cookies into Gary's hands. Kids on bikes circling like curious sharks. The brownstone was modest, brick facade scarred by ivy. But inside, exposed beams, a kitchen where sunlight pooled on oak counters. Their first night, they christened it with pizza on the floor, wine from a box, laughter echoing off walls that felt like home. Work reshuffled too. Nicholas dove into freelance consulting, targeting queer nonprofits, advising on endowments for youth shelters, pro bono for AIDS memorials. Paid less, but the purpose? It filled the hollows money never touched. Gary thrived at Le Petit Bistro, his rustic charm winning over the owner. A French expat named Marcel who barked orders but slipped him extra shifts. "You cook with heart, Harlan?" Marcel grunted one night, clapping Gary's back. "That's rare as truffles." Evenings wove them tighter. Gary experimenting with recipes. Nicholas perched on a stool, taste testing with exaggerated moans that dissolved into kisses. They talked dreams, Gary's vague itch for culinary school, Nicholas's wild notion of a food truck empire, fusion of Brooklyn grit and upstate roots. Harlan and Hale, bites that bridge worlds, Gary joked, but his eyes sparkled serious. Yet shadows lingered. Derek slithered back via email, "Congratulations on the downgrade," attached to paparazzi shots from the gala. Gary cropped out like an afterthought. Nicholas blocked him, but the poison seeped. Late nights when he'd stare at the ceiling, whispering, "What if he's right?" Gary sensed it, pulling him from the dark with touches that grounded. "Hey," he'd say, fingers in Nicholas's hair. "We're not them. We're us." Spring bloomed, cherry blossoms dusting the park like confetti, and with it came the first real test post-betrayal. Harlan's 60th birthday bash. A tentative affair in the Hamptons. Invite extended via Elena with a postscript. "Dad asks you come." Solo. Nicholas agonized, but Gary pushed. "Go. Show him the man I love isn't scared." Nicholas arrived windswept, khakis and loafers a concession to decorum. The estate sprawled like a kingdom, guests in linens sipping rose by the pool. Harlan spotted him across the lawn, expression unreadable. "Nicholas." A nod, no embrace. They talked, stilted at first, Harlan probing Nicholas's new ventures. Nicholas countering with stats on the shelter he'd helped fund. Lives touched. Elena hovered, her husband, a quiet architect, chiming in with easy banter. Then, as dusk painted the dunes gold, Harlan pulled him aside by the boathouse, scotch in hand. "I was wrong," he said gruffly, gaze on the horizon. "About the merger. About you. Your mother's photo album. Found pictures of my uncle, the one who never married. Rumors he was like you. Kept it buried, but it ate at him." Nicholas's breath caught. "Dad." Harlan waved it off. "Don't go soft on me. Just bring the boy next time." Harlan blood runs thick, even if it's bent. It wasn't absolution, but it was a door cracked. Nicholas drove back that night, windows down, salt air whipping tears he didn't hide. Gary waited on the stoop, porch light haloing his silhouette. "Well?" he asked, pulling Nicholas into a hug that smelled of garlic and home. "He's trying," Nicholas said, voice muffled in Gary's neck. "And so am I." They celebrated with rooftop sex under a blanket of stars. The city a distant hum, bodies moving in sync like tides. Love, they learned, wasn't a blaze but a hearth, steady, warming the bones against winter's bite. Summer sweltered in, fireflies dancing in community gardens, and Gary's itch crystallized. Marcel knew a guy at the Institute of Culinary Education, scholarships for non-trads like him. Applications loomed, Gary pacing the kitchen, doubts spilling. What if I crash and burn? I'm no prodigy. Nicholas caught his hands over the sink. Suds forgotten. Then you burn bright, and I'll be there with the extinguisher and the champagne. Gary applied, heart in his throat, and got in full ride starting fall. Nicholas marked the calendar with a flourish, their life a calendar of milestones now. But betrayal's echo whispered once more, in autumn's amber light. Derek cornered Nicholas at a fundraiser, uninvited, drunk on entitlement. Still playing house with the help? He sneered, breath sour. When he cleans you out, don't say I didn't warn. Nicholas's fist clenched, but Gary, there as arm candy turned equal, stepped up, voice steel. Walk away, asshole, or I'll make sure your next merger's with a jail cell. Derek slunk off, tail tucked, and later, in the cab home, Nicholas laughed till it hurt. My hero, he teased, kissing Gary's temple. Nah, Gary grinned. Just your partner in crime. Winter wrapped them gentle, holidays hashed out over eggnog. No Hamptons for Harlan's frost, but a quiet tree in the living room. Ornaments from thrift shops and Elena's gift box. They exchanged promises wrapped in paper. Nicholas's a locket with their bridge photo. Gary's a handwritten vow. To the man who jumped worlds for me. As snow blanketed the slope, Nicholas proposed. Not on bended knee, but over midnight pancakes. Rings sliding across the table like a dare. Marry me, Gary Harlan. Make an honest mess of my life. Gary's yes was a whoop, flipping the griddle in joy sparks. They planned small city hall, then a backyard bash with Marcel's catering and Elena's toasts. The ceremony came on a bluebird March day, cherry hints in the air. Vows exchanged under the brownstone's arbor. Gary in a suit that fit like dreams. Nicholas's eyes wet as he said, You taught me love's not inherited, it's fought for. Reception spilled into the garden, laughter mingling with jazz from a Bluetooth speaker. Harlan showed, stiff, but there, clapping Gary's shoulder with a gruff, Welcome, son. Derek? A footnote, blacklisted from Nicholas's circles. Their honeymoon was a road trip upstate, tracing Gary's roots. Motels with neon flickers, diners where he spun tales of boyhood mischief. In a cabin by a frozen lake, they made plans. Not empires, but a life. The food truck, maybe kids via surrogacy. Roots deep in soil they'd till together. Years folded like accordions, but the core held. Two men, once divided by dollars and doors, now fused by fire. Gary's truck, Harlan hail hot bites, rolled markets, fusion feasts drawing lines. Nicholas consulted from a home office, their brownstone expanding with a nursery wing when Elena's referral landed them a surrogate. Baby Hale Harlan arriving pink and wailing. On quiet nights, with the child tucked in and the city a lullaby, they'd dance in the kitchen slow, offbeat. To Springsteen, Gary's head on Nicholas's chest. We did it, he'd murmur. Nicholas would kiss his crown. Yeah, love's the great equalizer. And in America's sprawl, from bridges to brownstones, their story stood as testament. Wealth or want, the heart charts its own course, unyielding, unbroken. The baby changed everything and nothing. A tiny cyclone named Riley, red-haired like Gary's mom, blue-eyed like Nicholas's stolen summers. Those first months were a haze of diapers and dawn feedings, the brownstone a bunker of bottles and board books. Gary, ever the nurturer beneath his tough shell, took to fatherhood like breathing, rocking Riley through colic cries while Nicholas paced board calls on speaker, half listening. You're a natural, Nicholas whispered 1:03 a.m., watching Gary hum an old Johnny Cash tune. Riley's fist curled in his tea. But natural didn't mean easy. Sleep deprivation cracked jokes into arguments. Gary snapping over Nicholas's fancy organic formula push. It's rabbit food. Nick, kids fine on what we had. Nicholas retreating into work when Gary's exhaustion boiled over. The wealth ghost reared too. Harlan, thawing slow, sent checks for the grandkid, which Gary cashed but banked separate, eyes flashing. Charity stings less when it's wrapped in booties. They navigated it in therapy. Elena recommended a queer couples counselor in Chelsea named Theo, with a beard like a philosopher and zero bullshit. Sessions peeled layers. Nicholas's fear of abandonment rooted in Derek's knife twist. Gary's armor forged from foster flings that always fled. Love's a verb, Theo said, glasses glinting. Do it daily or it dies. They did date nights squeezed in, babysitter via the park mom squad. Weekends hiking prospect, Riley in a carrier babbling at squirrels. Gary enrolled part-time at IC now. Nights sweating over knife skills while Nicholas minded the fort. Riley gnawing a teething ring on his knee. Daddy's chef hat, Nicholas cooed, snapping pics for the fridge gallery. Riley's first birthday hit like a milestone meteor. Backyard bash with balloons and Marcel's mini quiches, Elena toasting, to the family that chose each other. Harlan came, awkward in khakis, gifting a silver rattle engraved Hail Legacy. Bent but strong. Gary met his eyes across the cake smash, a nod passing silent. Truce. Post-party cleanup turned confessional. Harlan lingered, scotch swapped for seltzer, watching Riley smear frosting. Your mother's father, my granddad, was like you too, he admitted, voice low. Loved a sailor back in the war. Never spoke of it, but I found letters after she died. Burned 'em, fool that I was. Wish I hadn't. Gary clapped his back. Gruff. Letters or not, you're here now. That's rewrite enough. Harlan nodded, throat working. Yeah, rewrite. As Riley toddled into twos, the truck biz boomed. Harlan hail at Smorgasburg weekends. Lines for Gary's upstate poutine twists. Nicholas scaled back, consulting for a startup. App matching queer donors to grassroots orgs, his brainchild born from bridge vows. Success nibbled. First investor meet in a midtown high-rise. Nicholas in a suit that fit his new skin. Gary texting Knockham with that smile. Babe. But cracks spiderwebbed subtle. Derek's shadow? Banished, but envy bred new foes. A venture partner, slick as sin, named Victor, who wooed Nicholas with whispers of scaling up, eyes lingering too long on boardroom photos of the family. Cute setup, Victor said once over oysters. But kids cramp ambition, don't they? Nicholas bristled, shutting it down. Ambition's what I make it. But the seed itched, nights scrolling job boards, wondering if Park Slope penned him small. Gary felt the drift first. Over dinner one night, Riley asleep upstairs, mac and cheese steaming. You're pulling away, he said flat. Fork paused. Nicholas blinked, denial rising. Work's hot, that's all. Bull. Gary's eyes, steady. Victor's sniffing, ain't he? Promising the moon you left. Nicholas deflated, fork clattering. It's not. I mean, yeah, but it's us, Gary. Always. They talked till midnight, Theo's verbs in play. Listening without fixing, touching without agenda. Nicholas confessed the siren call of old power, the rush of closing deals, the validation Harlan once dangled. Gary heard, hurt flickering, but leaned in. Then chase it. But chase with me, not from me. Resolution sparked a pact. Nicholas test the startup waters, but cap hours at 50/week. Gary'd hire a Sioux for truck days, freeing nights for family flips. Pancake forts, storytime symphonies. Summer 29 brought heat waves and heart swells. Riley's first beach trip to Rockaway. Waves tickling toes. Nicholas burying Gary in sand up to his neck. Laughter echoing. Harlan joined, SPF slathered. Building lopsided castles. His gruff, not bad Harlan to Gary's moda bomb. Fall unfurled scandals citywide. Tabloids frothing over a Wall Street closet case outed mid-merger. But Nicholas and Gary? Anchored. Volunteering at the shelter. Riley finger-painting murals for Aunties and Uncle's Night. Victor pushed once more, headhunting with a Soho loft offer. But Nicholas countered, pass. My loft's got heartbeats, not square footage. Winter whispered betrayals anew. Not Derek's blade, but subtler. A truck poacher, rival vendor undercutting Gary's stand with knockoff recipes. Sales dipped, stress spiking. Gary slamming home late, grease-streaked, snapping at Nicholas over spilled milk. Literal, Riley's cup. Can't catch a break, he growled, scrubbing counters till they gleamed. Nicholas bridged it, calling Marcel for backup, then surprising Gary with a pop-up collab. Harlan Hale X Le Petit tasting tour, Buzz rebuilding overnight. They celebrated in the truck after close, champagne fizzing. Gary pulling Nicholas onto the prep counter for a kiss that tasted of victory and vindication. Team, Gary murmured, hands framing Nicholas's face. We're the fucking dream team. Spring 30 bloomed with Riley's preschool jitters. Tiny backpack, crocodile tears at drop-off. But Gary's steady hand coaxed smiles. Nicholas snapping pics through the fence. The app launched that month, bridge builders, download spiking, Nicholas keynoting at a queer tech summit in SF. Gary flew out midway, Riley in tow, family crashing the afterparty with contraband cupcakes. My muses, Nicholas toasted on stage, screen split. Gary grinning, Riley waving sticky fingers. Back east, Harlan's health dipped. Prostate scare. Surgery swift but sobering. Hospital vigils knit tighter. Elena coordinating. Gary smuggling in contraband subs. Doc said no, but life's short. Nicholas holding his father's hand through morphine haze. Proud of you, son, Harlan rasped post-op, eyes clear. Of both my boys. Healing rippled. Harlan retired partial, funneling seed money to the app. No strings, just a check and a hug for Gary that lingered paternal. Keep feeding my boy, he said, voice thick. Body and soul. Summer sauntered in with road trips. Adirondacks cabin, Riley fishing with plastic poles, Gary grilling trout over fire, Nicholas reading aloud from dog-eared Kerouac. Nights, stars blanketing. They'd make love on the porch swing. Riley snores a distant chorus, bodies sinking like old jazz. By fall, the truck empire expanded, second unit in Queens. Gary's face on local food blogs. From line cook to love-fueled luminary. Nicholas's app hit 1 million users. TEDx invite looming. But balance held. Tuesday tacos, no phones. Sunday suppers with Elena's crew, chaos joyful. One crisp October Eve, post-head prep. Nicholas found Gary on the roof deck. Riley conked out inside, city lights winking. Nervous, Gary asked, passing a beer. Nicholas exhaled. Yeah, but got my anchors. He pulled Gary close, slow dance to phantom music. You, him, this. Gary's head tucked under his chin. Oceans wide, but we're the tide. Winter-wrapped gifts unbidden. Riley's school play, elf ears askew, stealing scenes. Harlan's Hanukkah, first joint with the family. Lacks Gary's twist burning perfect. Betrayals? Faded footnotes. Victor's firm tanked in a scandal. Derek's linked in a wasteland of ghost jobs. As 31 dawned, snow dusting stoops, they renewed vows casual. City Hall redux. Riley ring-bearer with a velvet pillow too big. Dinner at Marcel's, free rounds for all. To overcomings. Elena toasted, glass high. Nicholas caught Gary's eye across the table. Love a live wire. From bridge brink to this banquet of belonging. Their journey etched indelible. Love, the ultimate leveler. Turning paupers to princes, divides to dances. The years piled like cordwood. Steady burn against time's chill. But entropy nips eternal. By Riley's 10th, gangly limbs, soccer cleats caked in park mud. Their world hummed oiled. Trucks at 3 boroughs, app acquired by a benevolent giant, royalties rolling passive. Brownstone expanded with a skylit studio where Gary tested recipes. Nicholas brainstormed blogs on queer capital, from closet to C-suite. Harlan, graying graceful, weekend grandpa with model trains in his den. Spoiling Riley rotten but schooling ethics. Money's tool, not throne kiddo. Yet undercurrents stirred. Riley, sharp as Elena, started probing identities at school. Bullies sneering gay dads like a slur. Teachers fumbling diverse families. Gary fielded it blunt over breakfast. Yeah, we're gay. Means we love who we love. Fierce as fuck. Your turn? Who loves you? Nicholas softened edges. Books on rainbows and rights stacked bedside. But the sting lingered. Riley's quiet why them? After a playground shove. They doubled down. Family therapy reboot with Theo, now remote via Zoom, unpacking microaggressions. Kids weaponize what they don't get, Theo said. Arm yours with pride, not armor. Outings escalated. Pride floats where Riley waved mini flags. Brunches with the Mom Squad's queer allies. Stories of Stonewall spun bedtime. Gary channeled it culinary. Pop-up rainbow feasts. Proceeds to Gielison. Riley sous chef in an apron too big. Chopping herbs with solemn focus. Nicholas penned op-eds. NYT bites on parental privilege in the rainbow age. Voice amplified. Harlan, surprising, donated anonym to the fund, muttering, "World needs more like you too. Less like me, young." But betrayal brewed domestic, insidious. Victor resurfaced. Not as suitor, but shark. Head of a VC firm eyeing Gary's brand for scale. Lunch at Per Se, linen crisp, Victor pitching. Franchise it national, baby. You're wasting in these trucks. Flattery flowed. Numbers dazzling. But undertow pulled. Ditch the sentiment. Biz is biz. Gary wavered, home that night with spreadsheets, eyes alight. Could mean security, Nick, college for early retirement beach house. Nicholas scanned figures, gut twisting. At what cost? Your soul's in the grease, not the gloss. Argument ignited. Riley at a playdate, kitchen a battlefield. Security's not chains. Gary shot back, voice rising. You of all people, Mr. Trust Fund, lecturing poverty? Nicholas recoiled, old wounds raw. This from the guy who jumped bridges over scraps? I'm saying don't sell your heart for a suit smile. Doors slammed. Gary crashing on the couch. Nicholas in the studio till dawn, staring at city veins pulsing indifferent. Morning brought coffee truce. Riley's why yelling? A gut punch. They talked. Raw. Theo guided. Gary admitting fear's grip. Eviction flashbacks. Nicholas confessing control's claw. Harlan's shadow. Victor. Ghosted. Brand stayed boutique. Trucks truer. Healing hummed slower, but summer healed. Cape Cod crash pad. Harlan's invite. All in. Waves crashed. Riley boogie boarding. Gary and Nicholas stealing kisses in dune grass. Harlan grilling lobsters with tales of his uncle's adventures at sea. Love found him young, Harlan said, eyes distant. Lost him too soon. Don't lose each other, boys. Fall fortress them. Riley's coming out project at school. Poster of my two dads. Heroes in aprons and apps. Earning gold stars and hugs. Gary's cookbook deal landed, bridge bites. Recipes for crossing divides. Nicholas editing late nights. Riley illustrating carrots as bridges. Winter whispered woes anew. Elena's divorce. Amicable but aching. Custody shares splintering holidays. They rallied. Thanksgiving at the brownstone. Harlan carving turkey. Elena crashing with wine and woes. You too, she slurred, arm around Gary. You're the blueprint. Don't fuck it up. Nicholas caught Gary's eye, vow renewed silent. Won't. New Year's, rooftop with sparklers, Riley counting down. They kissed under fireworks, promise electric. 33 bloomed bold. Riley's braces gleam, soccer goals galore. Gary's book tour, coastal hops with Nicholas tag-teaming reads. Harlan's memoir ghosted by Nicholas, Empire of Echoes. A Father's Reckoning. Chapters on the bent uncle, dedication, to my sons, who straightened my spine. Betrayal bit back via proxy. A Gothamist expose. Anonymous tip on Hale Air's humble hustle. Dredging Derek's old dirt. Painting Nicholas, slumber savior. Trolls swarmed socials. Slurs stinging. Gary shielded Riley from screens. Nicholas lawyered up. Defamation suit dropped bombs. Derek named source. Career cratered anew. Aftermath. Catharsis. They turned it to fuel. Podcast launch. Over the Gap. Couples tales of class crush crushes. Riley guesting on Kid Corner. Listeners flooded. Love letters literal. You gave us hope. Spring sauntered soft. Riley's bat mitzvah prep. Harlan's insistence. Blended rights. Gary quelling over Torah portions. Nicholas's app evolved. VR bridges for virtual meetups. Queer elders to youth. Trucks collabed with schools. Cooking classes on feeding futures. Summer scorched scandals citywide. SCOTUS whispers on rights rollback. But their bubble held. Road trip southwest. Canyons echoing Riley's whoops. Gary's campfire tales spinning yarns of outlaws in love. Fall framed fractures fresh. Victor's firm collapsed, begging Nicholas consult. Save us, old friend. Temptation teased, but Gary's hand in his at dinner. Your call. But home's the win. Nicholas passed, startup soaring solo. Winter wove wonders. Holidays hybrid. Elena's new beau a baker sinking with Gary's vibe. Riley's first crush. Timid note to classmate Alex. Handled with grace. Nicholas coaching. Heart's honest. Kid. Always. As 34 dawned, snow sculpting stoops, they marked 15 bridge iversary. Quiet dinner. Riley babysat by Elena. Recreating that coffee shop napkin vow. Still jumping worlds? Gary teased, ring glinting. Nicholas grinned, pulling him close. For you? Every damn time. Their tapestry, threadbare in spots but tapestry true. Wove on. Love's loom. Indifferent to ledgers, loyal to the leap. Time's thief pilfered swift post-34. Riley rocketing to teen tumult. 14, all limbs and lip. Obsessing over indie bands and climate marches, posters papering his room. Greta, Bowie, rainbows radical. Gary navigated the minefield masterful, truck shifts syncing with school pickups, heart-to-hearts over post-game burgers. World's shit sometimes, but you're the fix. Nicholas played the long game. App updates funding Riley's activism fund. Late-night debates on systemic versus personal, ending always in hugs. Harlan faded gentle. 80 now, Hampton's house sold for a co-op near them. Walks with Riley to the promenade. Stories looping looser. Your dad's, he'd tell Riley, benchbound. Taught this old dog new tricks. Love ain't ledgered. Elena's life leafed anew. Bakery co-owned with her beau Mark. Twins en route via IVF. Naming Nicholas Godfather double duty. Family swelled. Barbecues ballooning. Brownstone bursting, laughter layering like Philo. But underbelly undulated. Gary's cookbook sequel stalled, writer's block biting, trucks tested by TikTok trends, sales sputtering. I'm stale, he confessed one dawn, kitchen cold, coffee bitter. Cheffing circles while you conquer clouds. Nicholas cupped his face, thumbs tracing stubble. You're my gravity, Gary. Ground me. Therapy tandem rebooted. Theo retired but referred sage. A non-binary sage with ink sleeves and insight sharp. Sessions surfaced. Gary's imposter echo, Nicholas's savior slip. Equity's effort. Sage signed. ASL fluid. Celebrate small. Pivot sparked. Gary's stale no more series. YouTube vids of Gap Gourmet. Budget feasts bridging bougie and broke. Virality vindicated. Collabs cascading. Riley guest starring with eye rolls turned endearing. Betrayal brewed boardroom bound. Nicholas's app acquirer. A tech titan named Thorne. Reneged royalties post-merger. Lawyers circling. Stress surged. Sleepless suits. Nicholas snapping at Riley over dishes. Gary greasing wheels with comfort Crocs. Fight it, Gary urged, post-fight foot rub ritual. But fight home too. Nicholas sued. Settlement soaring sweeter. Thorne tarnished in TechCrunch tell-all. Victory? Dinner dance. Riley DJing lo-fi. Harlan toasting. To underdogs who bite back. Summer 38 shimmered. Family fly east to Provincetown. Queer Mecca. Riley out and proud with Alex. Now boyfriend. Braces swapped for beanies. Bonfires blazed. Gary grilling skewers. Nicholas and Harlan swapping Scotch stories. Elena's belly bump bumping beach balls. Full circle. Nicholas murmured to Gary. Waves whispering. Riley's laughter lighthouse. Fall framed futures. Riley's high school apps. Yale dreams dashed for Bard's artsy vibe. Gary's pride paternal. Nicholas's keynote at Davos light. Love's ROI. Infinite. Gary live tweeting from home. My man's slaying suits. Gap goals. Winter wove woes whimsical. Harlan's memoir sequel. Echoes bent. Co-authored with Riley's illustrations. Bestseller bump. Elena's twins arrived, Luca and Lena. Brownstone baptism by bagels. Gary goduncle duties delighting. 39 flowered fierce. Riley's prom. Tux and tux. Alex's corsage clipping nerves. Parents packed. Porch vigil, Nicholas pacing. Gary cracking dad jokes. Midnight return. Glitter-dusted grins. Danced all night. Felt normal, but better. Nicholas teared, hugging tight. That's the win, kid. Spring spurred scandals personal. Victor's suicide note leaked. Regrets raw. Naming Nicholas, the one who got away right. Guilt gnawed, but Gary grounded. His choices, not your charge. Memorial donation to suicide prevention. Queer focus, closure cathartic. Summer scorched south. Road trip NOLA, jazz joints and jambalaya. Riley busking sacks with street cats, family fusing flavors. Harlan, Freilier, front porch fiddles back home, but emails effusive. Y'all heal this old heart. Fall fortified. Riley's barred acceptance, deferred for gap year in Costa Rica. Eco-volunteering, Alex tagging. Tears at send-off, Gary's pancakes piled high. World's big, but home's bigger. Nicholas and Gary empty-nested experimental. Tango lessons in Union Square. Weekends wandering galleries. Rekindling raw. Missed the chaos, Gary admitted post-tango in bed. Nicholas grinned, tracing tattoos. Chaos comes back. Till then, us. Winter 41 whispered endings elegiac. Harlan's hospice hum. Pneumonia pilfering breath. Bedside brigade. Elena's handholds. Riley's guitar gently strummed. Gary's soup simmering stories. Last words rasped to Nicholas. Bent right, son. Love am fierce. To Gary, kept your promise. Fade peaceful. Funeral fleet. Park graveside. Toasts to legacy lived loud. Grief glued them golden. Shiva suppers Gary helmed. Nicholas narrating eulogies. Spring bloomed bomb. Riley's return. Tan tales. Alex's ring proposal pocketed shy. Summer sailed serene. Mediterranean jaunt. Elena's twins toddling sands. Family flotilla. 42 framed 40s, Nicholas 48, Gary 44, vow renewal Vegas kitsch, Elvis officiant, Riley best man banter. Betrayals? Burned to embers, Derek deceased, overdose quiet. Victor's shadow spectral. Life's ledger balanced. Trucks franchise selective. App legacy endowed. Cookbook canon. Fall 45. Riley's wedding. Bard's sweetheart post Alex. Garden affair in the slope. Vows echoing theirs. Bridge the gaps. Build the world. Gary walked him. Tears trekking. Nicholas toasted, voice velvet. From our leap to yours. Winter wrapped wise. Grandkids germinating. Riley's first bump announced Christmas. Harlan's headstone visited. Flowers fresh. Papa hail. Meet the next bend. As 50 dawned. Snow soft on stoops. Nicholas and Gary porch perched. Coffee steaming. City ceaseless. Riley's brood bundled inside. Chaos cherished. 50 years. Nicholas murmured. Hand in Gary's. Rings worn whisper thin. Gary squeezed. Eyes eternal. From bridge to this bounty. Love's long game, Nick. And we won. Their journey, etched in eras. From poverty's precipice to prosperity's porch. Proved irrefutable. Two men, gaps gulfed. Wove a wealth no wallet weighs. Love, the quiet revolutionary. Overcomes not with fanfare, but fidelity fierce. In America's endless avenue, their steps echoed. Equal, enduring, eternally entwined.